So, welcome everyone. I'm Alexander, and this is where we dive deep into the strategies behind the predictable and scalable growth systems. For those of you just joining the podcast, we partner with tech companies to eliminate the guesswork and turn operational inefficiencies into a high leverage revenue engine. And today we have one of the industry leaders, Joe West, Managing Director of Insite Group Recruitment. Welcome, Joe. How are you doing today?
Yeah, very well. Thanks, Alex. Yeah, pleasure to be here.
Great, and I'm excited to have you on the podcast today, and I'm sure you're going to be of great value for our audience. Now, before we dive in, could you give us a quick overview of what Inside Recruitment Group does?
Yeah, certainly. We're international boutique recruitment firm. So in essence, focused on the financial sectors across accounting, tax, audit, offices over in the UK and New York as well. For us, I guess as a recruitment group, we pride ourselves on being very tech focused in regards to our AI adoption, the technology that we're using to, I guess, find those hacks to make recruitment that much more efficient and therefore helping our candidates, clients, I guess, get better results as well. But in essence, your standard recruitment group, but I guess we've had quite strong growth from using technology and therefore punching quite a bit above our weight when it comes to the clients that we're interacting with and recruiting for as well.
Right. That's really fascinating. But what inspired you basically to join to Inside Recruitment Group?
So good question. I was at my a global recruitment firm beforehand, who everyone's probably heard of, for 11 years, and I progressed through there. And I think part of it was I was seeing a company with all the money in the bank, all the finances behind them, adopting technology at such a slow rate, mainly because of GDPR legislation concerns, these sort of things. And that led to be honest, a block on a lot of progression for senior individuals because there was a real cap as to performance and politics comes into it in any large corporate organization. So Insight, it was actually founded 10 years ago by someone I used to work with in that recruitment company. And they've been going well for 10 years, good steady progression. And I think the goal was to come in to help us grow and reach a new level, really. That kind of move from entrepreneurial business to professionalized kind of high growth startup, I guess, as well. So coming in, it was very different for me, but I think the goal was to be more entrepreneurial in my mind from a
Mhm.
large corporate and be able to really get hands on in a business rather than play to, what the corporate line is, I guess, which to be honest, I was always a bit of an imposter in. It was quite obvious I was the odd one out. I wasn't the company man when it came to towing the line and just following process. It was I wanted to find hacks to make us more efficient at every point, really. So I guess I've been here now just over 2 years as MD, and it's been, to be honest, well, fast paced, but the growth has made it very enjoyable in what is a very tough market for us as a recruiter, but also a lot of companies in the economy that we're seeing, I guess, around the world now as well.
Okay, I see. But for example, like if we're looking back at those early days on your career path, what do you should have done differently?
Well, especially when I started, I guess I had a bit of an ego, which I guess most recruiters that go in and then doing a sales role have. So I wasn't the best at learning. I guess I was keen to try figure things out my own way and do it my own approach. That probably slowed me down, as I could have quite easily stolen a lot of those basics from experienced people who operate in that level. But that was more governed by ego than anything else. And then I turned into a bit of a learning machine, which has really helped when it's come to the AI technology implementation piece, where I'm now realizing I'm not an expert in a lot of these things. Yes, I've done recruitment for a long period of time and got quite good at that, I'd hope. But from a tech AI adoption and what helps drive the business from a growth perspective, I guess I've had to go back on that learning journey, which I've really enjoyed, and quite interesting to be there because I think as people, we get to a level where, again, we're senior, that our
Yeah.
ego kicks back in and says, well, we should stop learning and just carry on and use our expertise. But that's where really I think Insight as a company has developed, but we've helped to make sure that we're learning as a company and also our staff are getting better month to
Mhm.
month as well.
Yeah, right. And I know that also like Inside recruits in the financial and the accounting arena. But for example, like what is the single biggest challenge in finding top talent in this sector today, especially like you mentioned with like increasing demand for AI and analytic skills?
Well, it's a tough question because I guess a lot of companies are very cost focused. It's a cost focused economy at the moment. And therefore, from a recruitment perspective, people are wanting that golden goose, that person to walk through the door, be the superstar on day one, and give a instant ROI on the recruitment fee, but also
Yeah,
the salary that they're getting paid. Companies don't have the patience to hire on potential as they have done before. And therefore, what we've seen is a lot of companies making strong hires, but hires incredibly slowly that probably halts their progression. You know, a lot of business leaders say
yeah.
their number one reason they're not able to grow is because of talent. One, attracting it, and two, retaining it. And so, from our viewpoint, it's thinking about how can we hire someone who's going to be a future leader? Because to be honest, our reputation is then hugely improved with that client if we're hiring someone in who's with them for the next 2 3 years, progresses through the ranks and does a great job. We hire someone who's not with them long, that's where recruitment gets very costly and not worthwhile. So for us, from that viewpoint, the biggest challenge is, I suppose, getting round the image a lot of companies have of recruiters, where I guess a lot of clients, we have to get past that initial sales resistance that people have of,
Mhm.
well, that recruiter just wants to get commission, just wants to make a sale. So, of course, they're going to tell me that candidate's amazing. For us, we're having to really show that we know our markets that we operate in and a specialist in it without just knowing the key buzzwords, but also able to deliver that in a way where it's a real person. They're going to have flaws. They're going to have elements where they don't match
Right.
100% of the job description. They might match 80, 90, but have the attitude to make up that other 10, 20% as well. So there's an element of the psychology around sales resistance. There's also an element in recruitment does mirror the economy. You know, more people are hiring, recruitment does better and becomes easier. So for us, we're wanting to make sure we're covering both sides.
Right, right. And because you mentioned like about the talent, you mentioned like in our last conversations about that like business leaders consistently cite talent as the biggest challenge to the growth. But for example, like how does Insight help companies to overcome this critical bottleneck?
So for us, it's more about digging into why a company is hiring and what they are hiring for. Recruitment has a really bad trend that a company will say, I am looking for a finance director who's done this before. They'll run off and try headhunt and to hire that exact person. And to be honest, that normally falls quite flat. There's an element where we need to investigate as to why you're looking for that. Why do you need a degree from a Russell Brick University, or why do you need that particular system usage knowledge? And a lot of the times, to be honest, it's someone writing down a almost wish list of all the technical items they want from the individual, as we say, that finished article. So for us, it's more about investigating what's essential versus where does someone have the right talent to go in and add value? So, to be honest, it's more pushing back and questioning and challenging clients than it is listening and just going off and finding someone who might match perfectly on paper. And for us, we're able to do that because we're very much at the forefront of the AI tech adoption
Yeah,
piece when it comes to
yeah.
recruitment, that we're automating a lot of the administration tasks away, that the recruiters can focus on actually understand that client, what they think they want versus what's actually achievable on the market at their budget and expectation level as well, and to their brand, because we know every company wants the best possible talent. However, if you're not seen as a best possible company, that's very hard to attract unless you're paying over the
Right.
odds and these sort of things. So for us, it's more about realism and making people, I guess, see that. But hopefully, the clients that do deal with us and enjoy dealing with us see that it's not from a sales perspective, it's more a realism view of this is what's available in the market, this is what you can attract. if you want to attract better, we need to improve, you know, company perception, packages, flexibility, these sort of things as well, because people aren't just moving for salary as much as they used to.
Yeah,
People are more moving for flexibility, packages, exposure, progression wise as well. So those sort of things we want to make sure match up.
100%. And for the cultures, like most of them are like to be like more included in that company, not like feel just an employee.
Hmm. Yeah, certainly. People want to, we've had people take offers where they have multiple offers on the table because they felt the culture was the strongest fit,
Yeah,
even though the
yeah,
salary offering might be less, these sort of things that recruiters need to understand. And to be honest, recruitment firms and individual recruiters don't spend enough time understanding the culture of the client they're recruiting for, which is hopefully what we're focused in on. To do that, it takes time, and that's where the real tech
yeah.
focus comes into it, that we want to make sure people are sat there updating notes and typing out essays, which isn't a recruiter's skill set, to be honest with you. Recruiters are typically bad at organization and administration. They're the key elements where AI has shown not to have limitations, I guess, as well.
Right, right. And I know like also about the AI that you like been actively implementing in the like Insight workflow. But also, can you share a specific example of how AI has removed like administrative tasks, allowing your team to focus on the value adding activities and improve also profitability?
Certainly. So recruitment systems are built to be able to input a key set of criteria, and it pulls you out the people that match that. One thing that we've helped do using AI is more semantic searches. So what I'm talking about there is not just this criteria, they must have that, or they can't have that, and maybe this. It's more really speaking to AI, helping it understand what we're looking for, why, backgrounds, and that semantic search will go away and apply, to be honest, common sense in some cases, but also look around the periphery, because we're also looking at people's digital footprint. We're not walking up to people on the street, and people's
Yeah, yeah.
digital footprint isn't always perfect. People don't always have the perfect CV, the perfect LinkedIn profile. And so we need to apply an element of fuzziness to that people might not have updated their LinkedIn. They might be, people write their CV from their own perspective. You sit down and you write, this is what I've done, this is how I've done it. You're not writing it from the perspective of the employer. That's hard to put yourself in that mindset of what the companies want to see from my experience. How do I write that in a way that lands? That's the benefit we have as a recruiter, because we speak to both sides, and very rarely candidates, clients cross over as much as I think they like to think they do, to understand that. Even when an experienced director is interviewing, they can still make very common interview mistakes you'd expect them, having interviewed individuals for their team for 10 years, not to make, because when you're on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
other side of the table, it needs a different perspective as well.
Right, right. And for example, like, what is your advice for the recruitment professionals to master the prompt engineering and maximize the AI's benefits?
I guess everyone says growth comes from people and their talent, and retaining that talent as well. For me, therefore, recruitment's incredibly important within that, and the tech adoption piece within recruitment. So if people are looking to retain their talent, they need up-to-date information on their offering, employee satisfaction, these elements as well, which I know HR and talent acquisition teams help drive now. Not all companies have big, talented talent teams. And therefore, I guess from our viewpoint, it's more making sure we're working with clients where we can add value. If there's a client we can't add value to, we're not wanting to just fill a void or a gap, or become one of many recruiters. We work with most clients on a retained or exclusive basis, or clients that we've worked with for a good number of years, and therefore we hope we understand them. And if it's a new client, we want to gain that understanding as well.
Okay, and walking us for like Inside recruitment group addresses this challenge in the market and the new trends. What makes your approach unique?
To be honest, it shouldn't be unique what we're doing. It should be pretty standard. For us, it's, I guess, making sure we are trying to not so much hack recruitment, but we're trying to punch above our weight. And therefore, we're needing to make sure we're at the forefront of how we engage with people, because recruitment's a people
Mhm.
business, and how we
Yeah.
engage with people, as we've seen, there's more and more blocks forever. There's more access in some senses of how many different ways you
Mhm.
can communicate, and WhatsApp and text and phone and email and in-mail. However, there's a lot more blocks when it comes to the psychology of people in regards to receiving cold outreach and communication as well. People don't want to pick up the phone anymore. They want to go on an app and order. And so for us, it's making sure we're actually taking the time to approach the right people and do it in a way where, to be honest, it's welcome. So, our headhunting is done on a basis of, hitting people at a stage of their career they should have been promoted 6 months ago based on average tenures. And therefore, if they haven't been, we know that our outreach at that point is coming to someone well timed. We're not convincing someone their current employer is useless and they should leave. We're more attracting those people who, I guess, and headhunting individuals who have a niggle in their mind of what else out there is better. They're generally the people who are somewhat looked after, but companies aren't as good as I think they like to think they are at retaining talent. It's incredibly easy headhunting because companies realize when they're hiring, especially experienced staff, that they need to do more than the average to attract that person. And it gets them to up their game. The more a company recruits, the more they realize actually they see what's out there in the market, they see the salaries that are out there, the more they
Yeah.
realize actually to attract these best people that will help us grow, we're going to need to offer a better package or more flexibility. And so it's more that consultation element. Recruitment's turned into very much sales, and it always will be a people focused role where it's got a large sales element, but that consultant piece to recruitment is lost in a lot of sectors. We're fortunate we're operating in a sector where we're well known, we've got a good track record, and that benefits, but it's incredibly competitive as well. And therefore, we want to get ahead of the competition and make sure we're adding more value than anyone else. And that's difficult to do. We
Yeah.
don't probably get that right every time, but for us, it's making sure we've got repeatable processes in place, because having the right people is great if they're coming into a mess of a culture and a very non-joined up company that doesn't have repeatable processes. Scaling that company is being incredibly difficult. So it's making sure with the right people and you've got those repeatable processes, you can then scale at a really fast rate as well. And that helps us reinvest in AI technology, these sort of things. But I won't pretend we've absolutely got it nailed. CIOs around the world are saying they can't even measure the ROI of their AI adoption. So I think, unfortunately, when you hear MD CEO go, "We've got AI nailed," I only know of one company that really does, and that's because they've got leadership teams of data engineers, IT geniuses by all accounts, who have built a lot of their own systems. A lot of the off-the-shelf stuff is incredibly expensive, and without the ROI, I think prevents investment in it. But yeah, for us, we're on the path to having it nailed, hopefully. But the growth we're experiencing that last few years comes down to, I guess, having the right people that no one else can headhunt, I hope.
Yeah.
Um, and making sure that I guess we're doing it in a way that is repeatable, that we can help more clients achieve the same result over time as well. A big part of that repeatable process is that AI tech element coming into it, where we're not having to do everything from scratch every single week, month as well.
Yeah, 100%. And like interesting perspective, like around all the business point of view. But like typically, for example, when you talk to potential clients, what's the biggest like misconception they typically have about what you do?
Um, that it's fully controllable. I think clients sometimes will think we should be able to deliver and control. And I think they they miss sometimes that we're dealing with people. We're not dealing with a product. A lot of
Yeah.
sales roles, you have a customer or client, and then you've got a product. Because it's services, for instance, but we're dealing with people matching up. I think people forget life can get in the way, and therefore candidates can, you know, uh, stay in their current roles, counter offers. They can have other offers. It's incredibly it's a life-changing decision, changing jobs usually. And I think that goes out the window when an employer is unable to grow because they can't have that talent. It's more about, well, I need the right people to help us grow, rather than actually we need to grow, but we need people to come on that journey with us who matches up to that. And that's a big part of it's a joint decision. The candidate has to accept the offer, the client has to choose to offer that person as well. And therefore, I think clients hope, and it would be ideal if this was the case, that they pick someone and that person accepts the offer. However, to be honest, we have a lot of clients who work with us once they've had those processes where um, the controllables haven't been controlled, and by that it's making sure there's a certain amount of a matchup. Like I say, that 70% plus the logistics of a role, the location, salary, package
Yeah.
fit, the technical part fit, and the culture match is there to that 70% or above. If it's less, and I've seen this happen before, that recruiters, salespeople will try and push something to 70% when really it's a 50%. What happens is later on in the process that falls down, and it's a waste of everyone's time. So for us, it's more quality rather than quantity. But if we have that repeatable process where we can make sure every company culture is slightly different, but we understand a culture and go through that process and find the right person, we can then repeat that onto another company by ensuring we can understand the culture, what drives them, and same from a candidate's perspective, their motivations, to make sure that it's going to be the right long-term fit, to be honest with you. Because otherwise recruitment is very expensive. It's odd to hear a recruiter say that. It's expensive if you get it wrong. If you get it right and you pay off a one-off fee for your future CEO, you have an amazing deal.
Yeah.
However, um, the success rates are interesting, and I guess the recruitment firm, has an interest in that, but normally a shorter term interest than the direct employer does.
Right, right, makes sense. And also, like regarding to that, could you share a specific success story of a client? And I'm curious, what did that teach you about like what really drive results in your space?
Okay, lovely. Yeah, everyone likes the horror stories you see normally. Um, from success stories, I guess it's normally those clients that have unfortunately started working with us after bad experiences. And they come to us with a view of, that agency just messed up, or they gave us, and that candidate was unreliable. And there's normally an element of external blame as to why things have gone wrong. And I think we're also operating in that professional services finance arena where it's very candidate driven. The best candidates will have multiple offers on the table as well, and clients will always be looking for good people. And therefore, we have to make sure we're somewhat ahead of the competition. If we have a call from a client who's been in that situation, and there's been a few, especially in Q4, where they've been hiring for 6 months and not found someone, and they've gone to recruiters, they've looked themselves and they've struggled because what they're putting out to the market isn't necessarily what the market wants. So it's making sure that joined up. And I think lots of people are scared to say, look, what you're needing doesn't exist. I've seen job
Yeah,
adverts where
yeah,
they've gone, we need someone using AI for 20 years, and AI hasn't necessarily been around for 20 years. And you think, okay, where's the logic behind that? So for us in a candidate driven market, we've got to stay ahead of the competition. Part of that is making sure have got a network of candidates, clients that is well suited. And a big part of when we outreach to a new clients and do business development is outreaching to clients where we're confident our candidate network fits. To be honest, we will not reach out to a client. If we ever get outreach from Insight, I'd be interested in people's feedback on it. But if you've had outreach from us, it is generally because our candidate network is proven to be well suited to you or your
mm,
competitors. And a big
interesting.
part of that is making sure that when we have those calls from from clients that aren't happy or candidates that have been let down by employers, or they've gone through 4 stages of interviews, then had an offer £10,000 less than what they were looking for, that someone's actually going to listen and make sure that it's a good fit. So a big part, those success stories come normally from someone having a bit of a nightmare situation, and then we're able to turn it around. And they're the ones that are most gratifying for us, but also we see that in the relationship improves because they see the added value that we bring. So our headhunting is
Yeah.
a big element where we've done a lot with LinkedIn on their RPS Plus and AI platforms for their semantic searching to help make sure that is different from me just putting in filters and doing a tick box exercise. If you put in the filters, no one comes up. And I feel a lot of recruiters do that. They then move on to the next client. It's a bit of a luxury in recruitment. You can pick who you work with, and then move on to the next client. For us, every role is going to be filled at some point if there's an element of flexibility on either side of that candidate client relationship. And a big part of that is us normally finding out what part should be flexed, rather than just making a fee or
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
commission from that viewpoint, which unfortunately is the short-sighted element in front of us.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're ahead of the curve in many ways about that, like which made me curious about your growth plan. So, for example, how are you looking to grow for the year ahead?
So for us, to be honest, our growth over the last, well, 10, 12 years has all been organic, which has been, I guess, something that's held us back at times in tough economies and COVID and these sort of elements. But to be honest, a bit of a strength when it comes to people and culture. So our growth plans going forward, there's no reason why we can't continue our double-digit growth year on year. And a lot of companies are looking to stay flat or just drive down costs for profit. For us, that's coming from revenue increase, working with more clients, doing a better job year on year, month on month. So, from a growth perspective, to be honest, I'm talking a big game on a lot of platforms about our AI tech adoption and making sure that adds value. So for us, I want to make sure we're ahead of, our competitors as well. But the biggest tell on that is our client satisfaction and our client ratings. If clients enjoy
100%.
dealing with us and keep coming back, it's because we're delivering. And the more we have repeat business, as we've seen over the last year, that's been the real driver of our strong growth as well. And that should now continue and hopefully will. But that's why we put those repeatable processes in place that make sure that without any human error, that should be pretty slick now, I hope, as well. But human error and the psychology around people always comes into it, and I guess holds us back at times as well.
Yeah, and it sounds like an incredible like goals that you have ahead. And basically, you mentioned that your goal is to double your digits for this year. But like hypothetically, if you had like a magic wand to fix one thing in the business right now that's either like holding you back or slowing down to get there, what would be like that one thing?
So the big part for us would be with our organic growth, what's holds us back, and one would be having tens of millions of pounds in the bank. Of course, that magic wand would be great if you've got that, Alexander. But to be honest, what that would allow is for a bit of our brand, our story, our success stories as well to be heard, and therefore more us to work with more clients. The difficulty is that mix of delivery versus growth. We've got to deliver for our current clients and do an even better
Yeah,
job for them to trust us and repeat. That limits the amount of time we're able to outreach to new clients and help grow and develop. And a big part that I I say refuse to, but that might come back and bite me, and refuse to automate is that business development piece. I don't want
hmm,
clients getting phone calls from AI pitching our services. I
yeah,
want to
right,
make
right.
sure we keep that personal attachment
Touch.
and
Yeah,
networking.
yeah,
Um, and to do that, if we had a few tens of millions of pounds in the bank, great, I could hire lots more people to do it. But to be honest, we don't want to hire 10 people tomorrow who are going to do the normal new recruitment person mistakes and have to get to know their market and do these sort of things. So that organic growth suits us. It is somewhat supercharged by what AI and tech is enabling us to do, that we can punch above our weight and utilize those networks, and that's keep in touch, make sure we're not, missing out on opportunities as well. The more AI advances, to be honest, the only real limitations we have at the moment is users rather than AI and technology itself.
Yeah, makes
A
sense.
lot of people say they dabble with AI, they implement a few tools around their administration and these elements. Very few people are adopting in a sense where they are seeing game changing ROI. Um, we want to have that, but not at the cost of relationships and that human touch, which I'll always die on that hill. Recruitment, it's done over the phone where you're able to have human interaction and conversations because you're matching person to person. And
100%.
you can't then automate that part of it. But what we can automate is making sure our headhunting, our outreach, those elements is as relevant as possible, and therefore we're saving everyone time, that we're not just adding to people's inboxes and sending wrong information out. Still will happen because of human error, but the more we can mitigate that and lower that volume, the more we can make sure the quality of our work is great, and that's what we live by.
100%. And it sounds like the magic wand like would be like really helpful here.
Yes, yeah. So if you find one, please, yeah, send it over.
100%. And as you wrap up, like for listeners who want to learn more or potentially work with Inside Recruitment Group, what's the best way to get in touch?
LinkedIn, as I say, we're a top LinkedIn partner, and for us, our presence is on there. You'll see everything from clients we work with through to the roles that we're recruiting for, our network. Reach out to me or the team if you're needing support or wanting a conversation. We're just posting a lot of our salary surveys, guides, and insight into market and how to attract the right people. But we're keen to help other companies grow. Our growth comes from helping companies grow and find the right people. So, to be honest, it's more of a ecosystem. Hopefully, if we grow and do better, we're doing that by helping other companies grow, and in turn, it comes back and aids,
Yeah.
well, our growth as well. Yeah.
Yeah, great, great. So thanks for joining me today, Joe, and for this amazing podcast session. And for anyone listening, make sure to check out Inside the Recruitment Group socials below in the description because this episode was packed with value and I can't wait to see what you build next.